is the Private Investigator Experience podcast. And I'm your host, Phil Little. I don't normally host on Sundays, but with the big meeting coming up tomorrow in the Oval Office with Zelensky and other world leaders, I have some observations I've been following, and I wanted to share that with you. So we'll see what happens at the meeting tomorrow. Why I am somewhat interested in this is because I'm had experiences out around the world in my interest in a lot of these countries that are on the forefront today, Israel and Lebanon, where my counterterrorism and intelligence gathering started, and then, of course, Iran, and then Russia. And Turkey has always been right up there, too. When these names come up, we think about where do they fit in times? Where do they fit in the world events? Right now, Russia has appeared to be very weak. The only reason they're meeting with President Trump is because they've been forced to. His desire is to take over all of Ukraine, not just part of it. Well, what really is going on, and why is this deal with Russia and the settlement and how it's done? Why is that so important? Well, we have to go back in biblical times, as you might remember if you watched me before. Is I'm an investigator that's been in the military, law enforcement, intelligence services, and global security. I own West Coast Detectives International, a 103-year-old global security firm, and I operate also with a biblical worldview. I grew up in a home where I was taught the Bible, and I always had interest in Israel and all from that. And I understand what happens around the world fits in the prophetic things that are going on and prophecies that have been made. Now, if you're watching this and you don't have any background or interest in God or prophecies of the Bible, it might be interesting to find out what this is. It doesn't cost you anything to check it out, and you never know. There's been many atheists and agnostics and very educated, worldly people set out to disprove the Bible, and in their uh, search to do that, they become convinced that it's real. Well, what is the time we're living in? I think this is something we need to look at. Now, uh, Jesus' disciples, before he went back to heaven, had met with him. This in Matthew 24, and they said, "What what's going to happen? And when will we know that the end is coming and you're coming back?" Well, in Matthew 24, Jesus answered them, saying, "Watch that no one deceive you, for many will come in my name, claiming I am the Messiah, and will deceive many. You will hear wars and rumors of wars, but see to it that you are not alarmed. Such things must happen, but the end is still to come. Nation will rise against nation and kingdom against kingdom. There will be famines and earthquakes in various places. All these are the beginning of birth pains." We men that are watching this probably don't really understand what that birth pains are. But if you've been around the birth of one of your children, you realize that the woman does. And it's pretty serious. It starts off small. Also, white. Oh, this is no problem. And by then, maybe a few hours later, there's all war going on. So that's what we're going to be looking at here. Now, to put things in perspective here, the reason I've been digging into this a big part of my life and my search and traveling and meeting people is I want to kind of understand uh, what's the Bible saying about this, and can we really count on the Bible being true? Well, scholars say, and this is worldly scholars, not this Christian scholars, that the Bible contains around 2,500 prophecies. And there's estimations that over 2,000 of those have already been fulfilled to date. And this is both secular and Christian scholars. The remaining prophecies, roughly 500, in the 4,500 range, primarily concern future events such as the return of Christ, the establishment of God's kingdom, and events related to the end times. These prophecies are believed to be the progressively unfolding as time goes on. Well, here's just a little more breakdown on that fulfilled prophecies. Many prophecies, particularly those related to the life, the death, and resurrection of Jesus Christ, have been fulfilled. Examples include his birth, lineage, ministry, sacrificial death. Additional prophecies about the nation of Israel, its scattering, and its restoration have also been fulfilled. And the one that the world was waiting on, which I've mentioned this before, was the reestablishing of the nation of Israel in 1944, because the latter end time prophecies, really leading up those end times, couldn't be fulfilled until the nation of Israel was reestablished. So we've had that happen now. And that makes a whole different picture on that meeting tomorrow in the Oval Office, because there's a war that has to come. And during and before that time, there's and the rapture of the church in Revelation and in other places in the Bible, and also in Second Thessalonians and back in Daniel and other places in the Bible. It talks about the church being taken out before that great tribulation. And of course, the Antichrist, and that's not the big Antichrist. There's an Antichrist that the Bible talks about, that in those 7 years of tribulation is going to be the one that comes and settles the world and says, "Oh, I can solve all your problems, guys. I'll take care of it." And people could believe that. The first 3.5 years aren't that bad, really, but then the last 3.5 become hell on earth. Now, and also there's really something interesting to that revelation. The Bible says that the devil knows Scripture. Lucifer, fallen angel from heaven, they know Scripture. They know that the Bible talks about the final judgment, a final falling of the evil world. Well, they don't know when it's going to happen, because we don't know. Only God knows. So scholars say that over these years, Satan has had to have an antichrist in waiting, the antichrist, the 666, the big bad dude. But during this time, there's been the spirit of antichrist, which is evil, which is the kind of stuff we see going on in the world: murders, rapes, robberies, mutilation of our youth with this gender thing, and killing babies that are God's little people, and on and on and on. And so we're really seeing these events now line up. But I want to get down to the evidence of prophecies here, and get down to the uh, Ezekiel 38 war that's prophesied, that's going to happen when a number of nations get together and come against Israel to destroy them. God, in the Bible, is said, comes to their aid. The United States doesn't. No other country does. And that leaves a lot of dilemma in a lot of our minds. How could the United States sit on the sidelines? We know that couldn't happen right now. So it's not that time yet, obviously. But let me give you a little understanding, if you don't know this, uh, and kind of look at this and understand why it's important tomorrow, to get a sense of the timing. Now, folks, our understanding of what God says that He's going to do doesn't change the fact that He's going to do it. We can't change God's mind not to have an end time reckoning with evil. That's going to happen. We can't pray it out of existence. All we can do sometimes is head it off by repenting and turning to God, and Him giving us more time to do what's right in our lives and on earth. But anyway, this is going to happen. Not to scare you. It's not to give you fear. I don't live in fear of that at all, because I happen to know where I'm going, when I'm going there, and who I'm going to be with. So can you. But here's what it says in Ezekiel 38. Gog, on the land of Magog. Now, this is interpreted as Russia and potentially the surrounding territories of Russia. Rosh, ROSH, another name for Russia or a region within it, uh, Miska or Tubal, and this is associated with the modern day Turkey, or that's Turkey, and then Persia. Of course, we know that's Iran. Cruz or Ethiopia, who refers to the land south of Egypt, and then some scholars interpret that as Sudan. And then Put, again, that's Libya. Gomer, and that is part of modern day Turkey in that general area. And there's some other nations that mentions that many peoples, but the key is going to be to this: Russia, Turkey, Iran, and uh, and then there's Sudan and Libya that are going to be there with them. But the three big ones are going to be Iran, Russia, and Turkey, and they're going to be the ones that describes here. It's a future invasion of Israel by this alliance, but it also foretells God's intervention and defeat of the attacking forces. Why do I have an interest in this prophecy and this word from God? One is it hasn't happened yet. Two, it points to Russian as a leader of this uh, ground invasion. So they must be a strong force in the world to be able to draw support from many nations and to go against Israel. And then the next thing would have to be the United States is not mentioned in prophecy being anywhere. So we're going to have to become so weak or so non-existent, which brings me to the next question: what happens to U.S. to keep us on the sidelines? We saw in the last 4 years of the administration how quickly the United States could be destroyed from within. So, guys, I'd like to say it's not going to happen, but it's going to get worse. It will happen, but it's going to be better on the other side. So, scholars who've spent their lives understanding the scriptures don't have an answer. So we can only surmise, but we know it will happen. So, but then if Russia's the key to this, then they're going to have to be strong. They're going to have to be rebuilt from where they're at now. And we can see Iran coming to them because Iran had wanted to destroy Israel, but they found they haven't been able to do it. Iran's really wiped them out. So if their desire, though, hasn't changed. It's to destroy Israel, the Jewish people, wipe them off the face of the earth. So you can see then the regions there, which they've already signed a pact. Russia, Turkey, and Iran, and then just China has been on the sidelines. China is also in the end times. But, um, in my background in intelligence, everything I've done around the world, I've not heard anyone who has studied or watched Putin, particularly his life, political life, after his KGB days, who says we can trust him. He in Russia has never followed any treaty. He gave uh, and he gave us away his real issues and ideas on the Ukraine and this press conference the other day in Alaska, and dealing with the root causes. The root causes in his mind is that Ukraine has never been a real country, and it is part of a greater Russia. In 2014, following that conflict, Russia occupied and annexed the Crimean area peninsula. Additionally, Russian gained control over. I'm going to slaughter some of these names, so folks, if you speak it, sorry about that. Domsky, Luknanska, Kherson, and another oblast. But now these regions, along with Crimea, are recognized internationally as Ukrainian territory occupied by Russia, according to the U.S. Department of State. Now, what has been filtering out from around, and who knows how truthful it is, but that according to this weak somehow uh, information is that Putin, part of his uh, um, criteria in settling is that he keeps Crimea and he gets Donetsk area. Now I'm told that that's about 6.5 million people, Ukrainians, and it's one of their key industrial areas, and that's where they've set up their military headquarters and all for that region. And he says the only way he settles if he gets those. Um, well, now uh, what's going to happen? Uh, I think we know about Putin. He's come into this out of necessity. His country's in trouble. He's been trying to sweet talk Trump and bring him, let him hear what he wants to hear about how great he is, and yeah, there would have been a war if he'd been there, and all this stuff that's so you can see right through him. Uh, and so, and then the other thing, his economy is all around oil and gas, and he needs at least $70 oil uh, a barrel to work, and he's getting about 55. So he's selling at a loss, and he is uh, doing everything he can to try to get a sweetheart deal here, which will give him face and let him keep the territory he's already taken, and some he really doesn't hold. He doesn't hold the Donbassky area, but that would, in the future, would give him a straight line to keep. So if he could get this deal, he would have time to rebuild his country, military, wait for Trump's time in office to end, and hope for a weak president in the future, and we could see a real heavy Russian interference in our next election, a real one, trying to get a weak president elected. And right now, he's having a difficult time getting new recruits in his military. They're offering a bonuses equal to a year's pay, and they're having trouble paying them, the ones that aren't there. So he's in trouble. Uh, what President Trump and the team need to remember is that Putin is still at heart a master KGB agent. He's a master spy, looking for a weakness or the desire on our part to stop the war at any cost. Many dangers lie ahead. From my experience out around the world, dealing with life and death situations, go slow, keep a poker face, and have numerous escape plans if the deal goes south. Now, what do we do here? All these people are being killed. But let's think about this from Ukraine's standpoint. That's happening, right? Part of the deal is they're going to take 6.5 million of their people and sell them out and say, you're not Ukraine anymore. Sorry, guys, you're Russia. We've got to get this stopped. I don't know. I don't like the killing. I don't like all that are dying. But Putin invaded. The only way that Putin's going to be stopped is how we stopped Japan and Hitler with overwhelming force that brought him to his knees. And I'm wondering, let's say if this was a situation where President Trump was in charge of a country and he was brought to this situation, surrender in this war, and we're going to take almost 20% of your country, but that's the only way we're going to end the war. Do you think that President Trump, as the leader of that country, would submit to that? No, I don't think he would, from what I've seen about him and how he operates. So be alert tomorrow watching what happens. If we see this with Russia coming out of this strong and looking like a winner in their mind and getting this territory somehow that they want, now they're going to have the time to rebuild. Russia's going to become back stronger, uh, ready. They're on a war footing now, and they're going to keep that up. And sometime down the road, Russia, Putin, as long as he's alive, is going to keep coming back trying to take Ukraine and other countries. And then you can see his strength building back and the coalition of the willing with Iran and Turkey and others. And if the United States and the West, excuse me, succumbers to just allow him to do whatever they sit on the sideline when he comes into Israel, then we can see the timing for the Ezekiel 34. Anyway, be alert, be watching what goes on, let your voices be heard, stand up in your communities and find out what's going on, stand against evil, stand for law enforcement and and courts that prosecute and put criminals in jail and get rid of cashless bail and let's take back our on the streets of our cities of what's being done in Washington D.C. and other places. Get involved in your local community and make a difference. Remember, leave your comments on any of the platforms. I'd love to hear what you think about this. If you've been doing some study on this or know something about the Bible, let me know. Tell me your thoughts. And you can also email me at pi at 777 at gmail.com. And if you have questions about could a private investigator help me with problems I have, send me a summary of that to my email, pi 777 at gmail.com. And will you help me by liking, sharing, subscribing, and you know the drill. Hit that notification bell for future posts. Be alert, be watching. May God bless you, your family, and may God bless America.